Good morning. We are working on hip flexors again today. So we're just going to do a little hip flexor test. See where you're at. So the interesting thing, let's say one of the interesting things about hip flexors, there are many, but one of them is that when they feel tight, they're also weak. So we're going to do both some releasing and some strengthening today. So let's see. Let's come into a lying down position and lie down flat on your back. We're going to put the knees up, feet together. We're going to keep the knees together. So you push your heels apart, like so. Push them apart more and push them apart some more. Put them together and put them flat on the floor. If your heels didn't come apart very much, I want you to consider that you could use a little hip flexor strengthening. That would probably get things moving a little bit better in your hips. If that went really well, I want you to take a couple of blocks. If you were like, oh man, what just happened? I want you to do that again, flat on the back. But that was like easy peasy. Put a couple of blocks behind you. One goes behind the heart, the other one goes behind the head. Knees up, feet together. Knees stay together, feet apart, heels apart. Heels apart more, heels apart the most. Take a breath and relax. And then roll to your side. And how did that go? The way you choose one of those, we're just going to choose one of those. We're going to do it again, third time. You can either be flat on your back or at the blocks, one behind the heart, one behind the head. Let's go again. Lift them up. Knees stay together, heels press apart, heels press apart, heels press apart. And put them together and relax. Roll to your side and push up. All right. You've got your blocks out, move them out to the side, and we're going to do a little, just a pretty straightforward lunge. So we're going to be on the knees for this first one, Allison. So we've got a little, and you can always change the position of your kneecap by changing the position of the foot. So whatever is most comfortable for your kneecap. I want you to imagine like your knees dropping down into the floor. And as soon as you do that, you might feel your hip flexors lengthen, or some of them. There are 9 on each side. So there's a lot of muscles to contend with. But what I want you to feel is the knee drops into the floor, you get elongated. You get elongated. Now lift your heart to the ceiling. And lift your heart to the ceiling. Lift your heart to the ceiling. Big deep breath. And you can take your arms up if you wish, because it helps with the lift. And then place your hands on the floor, inside of your foot. You can always tuck the toes under if you wish. Hold here. Now, if you don't have your toes tucked under, go ahead and tuck them under and barely lift the knee off the floor. Don't move anything else. Don't let your hips come back or forward. Just the knee goes boop up. Hold for a breath, release, and walk back out of this. Good. Let's go to the other side. Anjaneyasana. Foot to the floor. Right knee drops to the floor. Lift up from here. Heart up, chest up. Knee keeps dropping into the floor, keeps dropping, keeps dropping. Breathing in and out of the nose. And take the hands to the floor. Inside of that left foot. All right, now heart reaches forward, heart reaches forward. Tuck your toes under, let the toes push into the mat a little bit. Feel that release. Yeah. All right, here we go. Lift your knee a teeny tiny bit up off the floor, but don't move anything else. If you felt something move or you're not sure, put your knee back down and come into it again. And take one breath here. And back your hips out. Good. Let's go into a little child's pose. Forehead to the floor. Drop in. Take a breath. We just jumped right into those hip flexors this morning, didn't we? All right, now let's stand up. However you choose to get there. Stand up. All right, so we're going to take this leg back. So right leg is forward. We're kind of in an angle. We're like at this 45-degree angle a little bit in the room, on the mat, wherever we are in space. So I want you to drop your heel into the floor. So this is back heel, and it reaches down into the floor. And notice how that lifts your chest up. That's really what we want, is the chest lifting up and the heel dropping down. Interlace your fingers, take them up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to lean slightly and twist to the right. And then we're going to do the same thing, leaning slightly to your left. The heel dropping down, the heel reaching down. And then lifting the chest and coming back a little bit. And then maybe circling around and seeing where's the tension. And if you find a line of tension, stay here. Keep dropping your heel down and breathe. Keep reaching through that long line. And then come out and relax. Take a little walk around. How's that feeling in your body? It's a little easier to walk now, right? A little easier to walk. All right, let's go to that other side. Stretching it back, lifting up, interlacing your fingers here. Breathing slow and smooth through your nose. Take it over to one side, the other side. Lift the chest, lean back. Find your line where you feel the most resistance and go right in there. But don't go in so hard that you like getting a big old stretch. I want you to get a medium stretch. Because when you breathe into a medium stretch, things will start to relax. But if you shock yourself into like 100% stretch, your body sometimes resists it and tightens down even more. Take a couple of breaths. And then we'll step out of this and take a little walk. Now, what opposes your hamstrings or glutes, so we're going to do some glute activity today too. We're going to do some glute work a little bit. So let's lie down and we're going to work in a little bit of a bridge pose, or a glute bridge actually. So come all the way down. Take your time in getting there, but notice how you do it. Notice the in between point A and point B. So many times, it's like those stop signs. We just go right through them and we're not paying attention. We somehow wound up at the store, but we don't know kind of like how we got there, like the details. So we're going to start noticing the details from A to B in our movement practice. So now, if we're like letting your feet just kind of rest gently against the floor, the soles of the feet, I want you to feel the soles of the feet against the floor. And I want you to feel that your heels are directly under your knees. And if they're not, just scooch them around until they get there. You want your knees about, I don't know, 4 or so inches apart. And then you want to take your back and arc it so that your low back is not touching the floor here. A little arc. And keep that little arc as you lift your hips up. They're not going very high on this glute bridge. And then we're going to traction the heels towards the head. You just energetically move your heel bones towards your head, but you don't slide them or step them. Hold here. Breathe. Now put your hips gently on the floor. And take your attention to your left side. Left heel drops into the floor. We're going to lift up into a glute bridge on the left side. Yeah, your right hip is connected, so it's going to follow. But the left side, you want attention there, and then traction your heel toward the head. And slowly lower down. And focusing your attention on the right heel, right side. Create the little arc in the back. Heel drops down, lift up, and traction the right heel towards the head. Keep your knees about 4 to 6 inches apart. Let the hips descend to the floor. Take another little breath here. And we're going to do some glute medius work today. So roll to your side and push up to seated. So we did, I don't know which day it was, but we did some glute medius isolation exercises. Glute medius is the direct opposite muscle to psoas, which a lot of times if you have chronic, if it's kind of chronic in the hip flexors, a lot of times psoas is involved in like tightening down. It's very deep. It's hard to access. You can't just massage it out. We're going to do a little bit of that today. So, lucky us. We're going to take a block. And if there were one rule to this game, it would be that game over if your heel touches the floor. So I'm lifting my right heel up and I'm going to place this block under my right knee. So my toes are down here. My heel is decidedly way up off the floor. And I've got enough tilt. So this is difficult, this position, to find your glute medius in. You're going to turn your body like so. So if you're here and you push your knee into the block, you feel what you want to feel is this right on the outside of the hip light up. You want it to turn on. And then when you release the push, you want it to turn off. You want it to turn on and off. But I don't want you to feel glute maximus, the big part of your bum in the back. Don't want that to turn on. So if it is, I want you to back off on how much effort you're using and just let that do its magic. Now place your hand on your hip flexors, front of the hip, like the inguinal crease. And I want you to push down. I want to make sure that those hip flexors aren't trying to do your glute medius work. Again, if they are, take it down a notch. This is not about how strong you can be or how hard you can push. This is about getting into the isolation of this muscle. Let's again push down, turn it on, and turn it off. So many times we create a compensation pattern because it's weak. And the only way to get it to be fully functional again is to isolate it. So we push down. And so this work is subtle. This work is subtle, but it makes you so strong. All right, one more time, just glute medius turning on. Now, if you have a strong glute medius and you want to take this up a notch, you push down and lift up enough to slide a piece of paper under your bum. And you hold that and you make sure it's only in glute medius. And if it's not, you have to back off. You have to. Let's release and go over to this other side. And we're going to push down again, turning it on, relaxing off, turning it on, pushing down. We want to isolate and relax. Push down one more time. Now, if you have practiced at this and you have a strong glute medius and you're like, nothing else is kicking on, my hip flexors are good, my glute maximus it's not doing this, or my hamstrings, I'm good. Then you can push down a little bit more and lift your hip off the floor enough to slide a piece of paper under your bum. It's not big. It's not a big lift at all. And how we progress this is each time you come here, even if you can do the level 12 of this exercise, you always start at level 1, just the on and off. And it's completely different. Completely different. Relax. Let's go back to this side one more time. Again, if you're having a little difficulty on one side or the other, angle your body a little differently. And if you do have, usually people will have a differential between the right and left. Just notice. And you want to start with, so when you do this next time, start with your strongest side first, the more organized side. Because that information will be uploaded into your brain and then downloaded into your other side. Isn't that cool? Neato. All right, so we're going to push, and that muscle is turned on. And we breathe. So go to whatever level you can, but it has to be isolated. No other muscles involved. And then switch. If you're working at 10% effort, yes, you will get strong. Stronger than if you worked at 50 and recruited a bunch of other muscles. Let's go ahead and push. And maybe even a hold. You can still go on and off if that feels like it's appropriate to you. And then release. And then grab for that second block. And we're going to put these blocks under the hips. All right, last exercise of the day. We're really going to kind of really get into, I said it's not easy to just reach in and massage psoas. It's so deep. We're going to create this. So on this side, we're going to do a half happy baby. The 2 blocks are end to end, and they're wider. They're the widest they can be, and they're the flattest they can be. If you put your hand on the sole of the foot and try to bring your knee toward the floor, that's the position you want to be in. I'm going to internally rotate this thigh and push your left heel out to your left. Hold and breathe. You can get in here if you touch your hip bone, the boniest, most sticky outy part of your hip bone, the ASIS, and travel your fingers a couple of inches inward toward the midline and push down. You may find a muscle that's pretty tight. It may respond quickly to the pressure. And when you find that, you'll know it. And that's psoas. And you take a breath. Take another breath. And we switch to the other side. So you might be wondering, well, is it better to get my knee to the floor or my heel to the floor? Because they're both not happening at the same time. I want you to kind of find a good balance. I want you to find a good position for your hip flexors to be able to release. So we each might be in a slightly different iteration of this. And I know I've been working on my hips for years, so they're open, and it might not be quite as open for you today. So here we go on this side. We're internally rotating this left thigh and pushing the right heel out to the right. We find the ASIS and go in a couple of inches and put a little pressure downward and breathe all at the same time. And if you hold pressure on a muscle for 20 seconds, it will relax. Come on out. And we're going to do each side one more time. Push that heel out. A little downward pressure, and that's so is. Deep breath. Last one, second side. Internal rotation. Notice the second time is much easier because we've got already this pattern. That first layer kind of worked out a little bit. Finding psoas a couple of inches in, downward pressure. And then come back to the center. Pull the blocks out from under the hips. Roll to your side and push up to seated. We're going to sit flat on the floor with our legs crossed. And just a little gentle twist. Make sure your hips also follow you in the direction of your twist. I want your hips and your spine going in the same direction. And twist to the opposite side. Hips and spine both go to the left. One more breath. And then take Shavasana, little legs up the wall, or whatever position you find most comfortable and relaxing. For closing your eyes for 5 minutes, breathing and paying attention. As always, it's such a pleasure being with you in these January mornings. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Okay, have a brilliant day. Wishing you all the health and wellness on this Monday.